On this episode, we're talking about surviving a blizzard in your home. Hey everyone, I'm Scott Hughes and this is episode 5 of the Pondering Prepper, and today we're talking about surviving a blizzard while you're snowed in at home. When winter arrives and the heavy snowstorms and blizzards begin, this is not the time to start thinking about how to survive a blizzard in your home. Your blizzard plan and supplies should be all set and ready to be put into action. If you hear that shelters are going to be open, try to make your way to one of them unless you have sufficient experience and supplies at home with surviving these type of conditions. No amount of reading or studying can truly prepare you for this type of situation. Going to a shelter and learning what you need to know can truly save your life. Some things to think about before the winter storm and blizzard season arrives, and I know it's like the first week of December and it's just now really truly getting cold. The temperature dropped 30 degrees here in Ohio today, but yesterday it was 62 degrees and people were mowing the grass. So I think starting Thursday it's supposed to get really cold. So let's talk about what we need to do now before it gets really cold and some storms and blizzards start making their way to us. You want to make sure that your home has satisfactory insulation on all of your water lines. The incoming lines, the sewer and the water lines both need to be insulated. The walls, the floors, if you have an attic, should all have sufficient insulation for whatever area you live in for a typical winter, or maybe even one that's maybe prepare for one that's going to be a little extreme. As the winter approaches, be sure that all of your utility bills have been paid. I know it sounds like common sense. Just make sure they're paid, all utilities are working correctly. You know, if you don't do this, it can mean having your power, gas, water, whatever utilities you didn't pay could be cut off, you know, when you need it most. If a blizzard knocks out your power and home phone service, if you still have one, be sure that all your cell phones are charged. Be aware that even if you can contact others, you know, they may not be able to reach you, to get to you, to your location if the roads are really bad. Another thing is stock up on canned and dry foods and supplies. Depending on the area, it is to your advantage to have at least 2, maybe 3 weeks of food on reserve. Buy food supplies for your pets. If you lose power and the house gets cold, your pets are going to need extra food than they normally would. And another thing, you want to keep plenty of bottled water in your emergency supply. You will need probably at least 5 gallons of water per person per day. Also, you need at least 1 gallon of water per pet per day, more if you have larger animals. Trim back branches that overhang your house so that they will not break off in the middle of a storm and fall through your roof, especially the heavy branches, or they could fall through your windows. Also be sure that any branches that are too close to power lines to get cut back, you probably have to call your utility company for that. If you plan to use a portable generator, give it a safety and maintenance check before the snow season hits. When operating these types of generators, you never use them in the house or connect to the garage. Doing this can cause a collection of carbon monoxide in the area, whether it be your house or your garage or wherever, and of course that could kill you. So something to think about. And you also want to conserve energy with your generator by plugging in only those appliances that are actually needed for the emergency. Do you really need, I don't know, your PlayStation and TV hooked up? Probably not. Do you need to charge your cell phone? Probably so. It's not going to take much power. If you own one of those automatic switchover generators, make sure to have it serviced by a professional generation technician. You know, make sure it's in good running order before a blizzard and snowstorm knocks out your power. Practice before the snow or blizzard season on how to use your generator correctly, and even go over it with members of your family, things that they may have to go without. You know, if the power goes out and you're relying on a generator, you might want to go over with them like, look, we're not going to have this because we're going to have this. Another thing, you want to turn the refrigerator and freezer to the coldest settings possible. Doing this, the temperature in there will obviously be lower when the power goes out, and it's going to stay cold longer. To keep your refrigerator foods and freezer foods longer, open and close that door as little as possible. Then, of course, it's also wiser to eat perishable foods first. Then you can go into your canned goods. We've talked before about an emergency kit, but let's expand on that just a little bit. Things you're going to want to put in your emergency kit for a blizzard or a snowstorm. One thing is all necessary medicines that you cannot afford to be without. Also, you want to have a basic first aid kit and a first aid manual. candles and oil lamps are a good source of light when you have no electricity in your house. The best candles to get are those emergency candles. They last, I want to say, 100 hours. And I'll put a link above in the status or description above, so you can go check those out. You should also have enough oil on hand for, if you have oil lamps, have enough oil on hand for at least a month, of usage for those. Also have any spare parts that you might be able to use if the oil lamp needs repaired, and maybe brush up on your lamp repair skills. They're pretty straightforward. But batteries for flashlights, something to think about. Or other handheld lighting systems, you always want to have extra batteries. AM/FM radio with weather alerts. If you can find a hand crank radio that also has a flashlight, that'd be to your advantage. Double duty. It cranks, so you don't have to worry about it using too much battery power, or any at all if you continue to crank it. At least one kerosene heater, and enough kerosene stored to keep you warm for a couple weeks, a month if you could store that much. For safety's sake, though, be sure to safely vent the area being heated by the kerosene heater. I remember growing up, we had one in our living room, because that's what we did growing up, and it was stunk the place up. Kept us warm, but it did stink and left marks all over the ceiling. But whatever, we stayed warm. If you have a fireplace, be sure you have enough wood cut to last you a couple months, and don't forget to have an emergency dry wood pile on hand. If you store it outside, there's a good chance it's going to be wet and it can be burnable. Another thing is extra sleeping bags and blankets for each person in the house, and maybe even a couple old ones for your pets to stay warm. You got to take care of the dogs. Another thing is those Coleman camping stoves. It's great to have those on for emergencies. If you have a fireplace, be sure that you have a cast iron fireplace cooking set. The pots and pans and stuff, so that you can cook in there without having to worry about damaging any of your cookware. And just to kind of keep everybody at bay from boredom, you want to get you some board games, some card games, books, magazines. This will help keep everybody busy, not too bored while they're in the house. Maybe during some downtime. So what if you have to work outside? Working outside brings a lot more things to worry about. So if you're outside in a storm, here's a few things to consider. If you're going to shovel, start off slowly and stop often, because you're going to need to rest. Rest often. It'll help reduce the risk of heart attacks, getting your blood pressure up, things like that. When you're working in the snow, it's easy to lose track of time and not pay attention to your exhaustion levels and your hydration levels. It's better to go out 3 to 4 times and push aside only an inch or two, depending on how much there is, then try to wade your way through the entire driveway or walkway or whatever it is you're trying to clear. When the heavy snow that was falling has stopped, you can go out and clear your roof as best as you can. You can use a roof rake if you have one. Growing up, we used a broom. We had a push broom in the garage. That's what we used. I don't even think they had roof rakes back then. If they did, we didn't know about them. Always be sure that the house air intake is clear and has good exchange of air through it. This will help prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. When removing snow, always push it forward, then turn to one side or the other. Never try to throw it heavy over your shoulder or off to the side. You could really throw out your back or cause other internal injuries depending on what kind of shape you're in. Another thing, when you're working outside, be sure you're wearing, this sounds common sense, but always make sure you're wearing gloves, insulated boots. Failure to do this kind of thing can give you frostbite on your fingers, your toes. Grab a scarf, put it around your head and your ears and your neck. Protect as much as you can and keep your skin covered up. What if the storm knocks out your electric? If the storm knocks your electric out, here's what you're going to need to do. If your home is cold due to loss of heat, then you will have to layer your clothing to keep yourself warm, and of course those around you, maybe even your animals. Loose clothing helps to keep the blood flowing, while also increasing warmth. Wearing a hat and gloves is essential because, of course, most of our body heat goes through our head and our hands and our feet. Mittens tend to be warmer than gloves because all your fingers are contained, in one area. Also, when it comes to your feet, you want to layer up on your socks. If you have wool socks, go with wool. They will keep your feet warmer, and even if your feet get wet, wool is really good for keeping your feet or other body parts warm even when it's wet. If you're going outside, try to make sure your coat is a bright color so that other people can see you easier. That way, hopefully they don't lose sight of you or whatever. You can be proactive, which is, if you're a prepper, you should be. And you can set your home up to be blizzard ready now before your electric goes out. The first thing you want to do is try to eliminate heat loss. The first thing you want to try to do is eliminate heat loss before the winter season hits. Put clear plastic on your windows. You know, we did this growing up. You also want to avoid opening and closing as many doors as possible. Close all doors in the house. Let's see, block drafts on the doors with rolled up rugs or newspapers. Insulate your windows by closing the curtains. You know, draw your blinds down. If you happen to have a basement, it is to your advantage to move down there because the ground temperature will be a lot warmer than the air temperature that's outside. A working fireplace, you'll be staying in this room. Move supplies into this room and wood into the outer rooms so that you do not have to go outside as much. Don't have a fireplace, select a room that's away from the prevailing winds. What else you can do is hang blankets over the doors and your windows to keep your room warm. Secure the blankets to the windows with duct tape or masking tape. Duct tape obviously works better. Put rugs or blankets on the floor to help insulate the room from the bottom. Set up a small tent in the room. You can use this for sleeping. Put your sleeping bags in there, blankets in there, mattress in there. It'll help to kind of keep the warm air in a smaller area. So what do you do when you have to go to the bathroom? Or, you know, hygiene comes along. You have to wash your body. If the toilet and sink lines are blocked, place a camp toilet or 5-gallon bucket in a small corner of your little area that you picked. You can blanket this area off for privacy if that's something you're worried about, and it'll also help keep whatever odors kind of in there. Use paper or sawdust to absorb any liquid, which will also help absorb odor. Just put it in the bucket. When the bucket's not being used, cover it tightly or put a garbage bag and put it in a garbage bag and seal it. Seal it, you know, as many times as you can because it's gonna get stinky if it sits there too long. Something to think about is how often do you need to bathe? Don't bathe unless it's absolutely necessary, because getting wet is the quickest way to get really cold. You know, in an area that's already got cold air, you know, around, and it could possibly cause hypothermia. Plus, you're going to be using water. If you don't need to bathe, don't bathe. Save your water. But something you can keep on hand for hygiene are baby wipes and those just a little hand waterless cleaning thing. Bottom line, if you're going to get caught in a blizzard and you're going to be at home, try to have all the necessary supplies that you're going to need to get through the storm. I know it sounds like common sense, but we talked about a lot of good things here. You know, with a good blizzard plan and a good source of supplies, it's going to make it a lot easier for you and your family to survive. If you have a fireplace, this should be your primary area to be living in during the storm or during the blizzard. That's it, guys. We kind of run through that kind of quick. Some people say I talk too fast. Let me know if you think I do. I'll try to slow it down in some future videos. What else? Real quick, we just got a new shipment of these in. These are our EMP survival notebooks. We're working on our next one. It's going to be all about blizzard preparedness, where we take our simple privatus method of preparedness and apply it to being ready for a blizzard. That's in the works. It's going to be hitting the printers very soon, but we just got a shipment of these in. We got 100 of them in this morning. We got about 72 left, so they're going kind of quick. So if you want them, I'll put a link in the description so you can go get your copy of these. They're, you know, like I said, they're 10 bucks. Everybody that's got them so far seems to be really liking them. They come with a grease pencil so that you can take notes in here. You know, put your own notes in there. There's checklists so you can check stuff off. Go to the store. What else? We got some in the front covers, all kinds of. I mean, it's jam-packed with stuff. Same thing in the back cover. Just tons of information in there. And for 10 bucks, you really can't beat it. They're water resistant, so if you drop them in the water, a lake or pond or whatever, pick them up, shake it off, and just keep going. All right, guys, with that, that's all I've got for the day. Check out the links above for anything that we've mentioned in the video. And with that, stay always ready, my friends. Take care. Your blizzard, dang. Your blizzard, I'll get it. Daggone it. This is ridiculous. I can't say blizzard.